There's really an art to interviewing. It's not just about your skills, your what, but it's also about really being able to express who you are. And that's what gets you the job. It's the human behind the resume. The resume gets you in the door, gets you on the phone, but it's who you are is what's going to carry you through these interview processes and rounds and help you ultimately land in the gig. Welcome back, everybody. This is Jessica, and this is Career Coaching with Jessness. Today's episode is for you if you are in the midst of interviewing, you're looking for interview strategies, and specifically want to know how you can get better at asking really good questions in the interview. I am a huge fan of using strategic quality questions for you to ask the people that you're interviewing with in order to help showcase your intent for the role, highlight how smart you are, and appeal to the company while still getting some information from them because you're still dating them, right? You're still figuring out if this job is going to be the right gig for you. And so, yes, you're going to ask questions that you really want the answers to, but you're also going to be smart about what ones you're asking. And I'm going to give you some specific examples. Many of them actually come from a resource I have in my career success guides on my website. The link is in my show notes below, all free. And I just give you a list. Here are some strategic questions to include because I guarantee you at the end of every episode, you will be asked, what questions do you have for me? And you don't want to miss the opportunity to ask questions. I was a recruiter for many, many years, both at a recruiting agency and within a large software as a service company. And I know for a fact that when the person interviewing you asks, what questions do you have for me? It is a red flag if you say, I'm good. Yeah, no, I think I've got all the questions answered right now, which that may be true. You may be like, I don't have questions. But by the end of this episode, I want you to have a list of questions in mind that you can plug and play based on who you're interviewing with. So I would have at least 10 to 15 questions that you want to ask them so that one, you do always have a question in mind and you don't run into this situation where you're like, oh no, I'm good. Because sometimes that can come across as, oh, well, they're just not that interested. And even if you have to repeat a question that's the same question to one person that you already asked to another, there's some benefit in that too. You may get a slightly different answer, or depending on the role, those answers are different because of their seat in the house at the company. An HR manager and a CFO may answer a question differently. It doesn't mean they're wrong if it's different, but it just may be, oh, they have different points of view based on what they know about the company and their role. So it can help round out understanding of what you know about the company. That way, at the end of all your dates, AKA, your interviews, that when you say yes and you sign on that dotted line, AKA, it's basically a marriage. We spend so much time at work. That you're going to have uncovered every stone. You've asked all the questions. There's nothing left unsaid. And you can feel super confident that, yep, this is the right next step for me, and go about it with some confidence. And that's the best feeling, knowing, okay, I've done my due diligence. I know this is right for me. I've dated them and understood what this opportunity is required of me, and they've got as much info that they can get on me. And I know that this is going to be a match from everything I've been able to find out. So don't miss the opportunity to ask questions at the end of the interview. Part of what you're trying to consider through the interview process is this job worth my time? Right? Is this role a good fit for what I have to offer? And is this company aligned with what I want to do? And is it aligned with how they do it? Are their company values in alignment with mine? Is there philanthropy efforts things that I see myself getting involved with? Do they have employee resource groups that I can be a part of and create some belongingness amongst the other folks that I'm working with? Is the culture a good fit? And I just recorded recently an episode on what it means when a company is interviewing you for culture fit. So if you're interested on that, check out a previous episode. But um, when you ask questions and ask them in a way where you are putting your butt in the seat of the position they are hiring for, it does two things. And I'm going to say that another way just in case it didn't land. When you ask questions that are strategic and thoughtful and are forward thinking, it showcases the interview two things instantly. One, you are seriously considering this role. You want this role because you're already putting yourself in the seat of being hired. So you may be asking questions that are already related to if you were to have got the job already. And that is a great way to showcase your thoughtfulness, your strategic decisions, around how you making a choice to move companies is showcasing your decision-making skills, and how you go through the interview process showcases some of the things that you consider and you care about, and it shows that you're serious about the role. It's it's a way of saying, pick me, without being a pick me person. You know what I mean? I think we all know that feeling. It's not great. It's not great. That grasping and reaching for the neediness, the desperation. And I totally get it. You may be desperate for your new job. But it's not going to come through in a professional setting. I remember so many times, that I would interview people when I was a recruiter, and I was like the first round before the job, or before the hiring manager, and I would feel the desperation and people trying to sell themselves for a job that just wasn't a good fit. And it's just a bit awkward. So even in professional settings, you don't want someone who's necessarily desperate. You want someone that's going to be a good match. So here are some questions that you can ask in an interview to really showcase the thoughtfulness, the strategic thinking. And so that person is like, wow, Jessica is already considering how she's going to approach this and that, and she hasn't even accepted the job yet. And it gives them some insight to how you would approach that 30, 60, 90 days, because their biggest investment is at a company, is hiring people. It is expensive. It's expensive to hire people. It's expensive to train people and get them up to speed. Whether they have a formal training process or not, it is expensive to have a new hire come in and them be in learning mode for a certain amount of time, and the person not yet being fully productive and a contributing member of the company, because there is always going to be a ramp up. So it's the biggest risk and investment that companies take by hiring someone. So, give yourself the best case scenario and showcase, look, I'm already thinking about me being in the role. So here's some questions from the worksheet that I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, in my career success guides. So, one, what are the performance measurements for this position? What does that tell the interviewer? I care about meeting the measurements. I care about performance. I want to know what good looks like before I'm even in the position. And it's a great way to then reverse engineer it for you to go, okay, if these are the performance measurements and I know that I can do only 2 of 5 of those things, you then need to make a decision. Are the 3 things that I don't have something I can learn? Or are they that big of a deal, or whatever? So it helps you also gauge, are the skills that I have the right fit? And I'm not saying you have to have all the skills on a JD, on a job description, before you apply. And I'm not saying you need to know every little thing that's listed in the responsibilities, because you can learn, period. There's many, many ways that you can, level up in those things. But I'm just saying it's a good gauge to kind of understand if they were to say, oh, well, the performance measurements are being able to do this, this, and this, and you're like, I have no idea what those things are. Of course, you wouldn't tell them, but you may consider, I'm actually going to not move forward with this position and save myself some time and not go through all the hoops of interviewing because, I don't want to be measured on that, or those aren't the skill sets that I have. Question 2, what are the long-term growth plans for the role or for the department? You can ask that as an and or an or. You can ask, hey, what are the long-term growth plans for this job? Or what are the long-term growth plans for the product development team? Right? And so thinking, what does that tell the interviewer? It tells the interviewer that you're not just a job hopper. You want to be in the role for long term. You want to make a significant impact on the company. And that happens by staying at a company for longer than 2 years. I'm not saying you can't make an impact in a year, but it's difficult. It's more difficult than putting yourself in a role where you see the whole business cycle go through multiple years in a row. That's really how you make long-term sustainable impact. So what are the long-term growth plans, right? And then you get some insight on what that is. Oh, we're looking to expand in this area. We really want to develop the team in order to get to this level or whatever. And that could be exciting, right? You can uncover what are some larger projects and things they're working towards, and that might be motivating to you. Like, yeah, I want to be part of that. I want to rebuild the leadership development team from scratch. That is my MO. That's my sweet spot, right? And so you can understand a bit more on how you can make that impact and also ensure that it's going to be a good fit for you and keep you motivated, right? And have some fun. Next question. This episode is proudly brought to you by my second book, Thank You for Dumping Me, part memoir, part novel, part self-discovery journal. You can find it on my website, justnessrequired.com, or Amazon in print, Audible, or Kindle. What's missing on your team now, and how do you see this position filling that void? That's a really great way to understand, and this is kind of a different question, but they may answer this in this way. Understanding, is this a new role or is this a replacement? Did someone leave the company and they're doing a backfill, a replacement for that position, or is it an expansion? A more, an investment in that department. So they may choose to answer it and say, oh, like what's missing is, we had someone in this position, they retired, and now we're looking to backfill. If they do say that, you can say, oh, like what was missing, or what would you hope that this position would help fill, or add value to that is needed right now. And so you can kind of get the answers to the test a bit on what are some of those key things they're looking for. Because, let's be real, a job description is sometimes 3 pages long. It's like, okay, what is most critical here? And that's what we're trying to get to with this question. What's missing now that you really see this position needing to fill? And it may be a skill set, it may be a perspective, it may be whatever, but that will then give you some insight to what are the skills or behaviors or attitude or whatever are they prioritizing in this job search? What are they looking for in the people that they interview? Next question. What aspects of a person, both tangible and in soft skills, make a great employee here? So this question really helps you to get into the perspective of what is the culture like here? How do people interact? What is the experience of working within this team, within this company? Right? So like asking like, what are the tangible skills? Oh, we use Slack all day, every day, or, Teams all the way, or Zoom this, Zoom that, right? We're on a ton of Zooms all day. Or it's like, hey, we have a really good sense of humor here. We like to make light of things. We like to brainstorm, or we're a highly creative company that even though we are at 14,000 people, we operate like a startup or whatever. It'll give you some insight into what what the culture of the company is. So those are some of the questions on the worksheet. I'm going to save the rest for you to take a look through on your own. I do want to call out just one more though, because this one is one that I've used in every single interview, and it gives me so much good insight. And it's in 90 days, how will you know this person is being successful? And I really love that because it'll give me an understanding of what what are the expectations? What do I have to right out the gate absolutely have from a skill set standpoint? What's the day to day kind of going to look like? So, like one of the time with my recent job, which I've been at for it'll be 3 years now. But I asked this question. They said, "Hey, we'd be looking for this person to build out the strategy or the bones of a leadership development program that needs to go global." And mapping out the different elements for what that would include. And I'm like, cool, got it. Like, that excites me. I love that. That is my wheelhouse. I knew I had even more clarity and confirmation that I'm interviewing for the right type of gig. All right. What are some other questions that you ask in interviews? I would love to hear. Send me a note on Instagram or email me and, let me know what other questions or different strategies around interviewing you're looking for. It's one of my favorite topics. I truly love interview strategy, interview coaching, one-on-one coaching through interviews and interview prep and being a soundboard for people, because there's really an art to interviewing. It's not just about your skills, your what, but it's also about really being able to express who you are. And that's what gets you the job. It's the human behind the resume. The resume gets you in the door, gets you on the phone, but it's who you are is what's going to carry you through these interview processes and rounds and help you ultimately land the gig. So next time that you are across from someone in an interview and you get to the end and they ask you, what questions do you have for me? Please, for me, don't say nothing. I've already asked everything. No, just have your list of 10 to 15 questions. Have it in front of you, bring it into the in-person interview, and pick what one you want. Even if you've already asked that to somebody else, get another opinion, right? Get another opinion. We do it all the time. The last, place you went for out to dinner, I bet you read one or two reviews before you went there. Okay. So it doesn't hurt to get another perspective, another flavor, another answer to the question that you've got. We spend way too much time at work to not vet them and see if they're a good fit for you. So best of luck with your interviews. I hope this was helpful. And yeah, I'll see you on a future episode.